is up, YouTube? If you don't already know, it's me here, and I'm back. My name is Mikey Pennington, and I have lost 200 pounds. In this series, I talk about stories from my past and my weight loss journey, give little tips and tricks that might be helpful for you, and tell my story of all the things that brought me to where I am today. In this video, we're going to talk about when I actually started trying to lose weight, how I made a game plan, and what changes I made more specifically when it comes to diet. We're living back in the van. I started to get in my head a little bit about how I was no longer losing weight. Living in a van, you have a lot of time to think about things. Thinking about my stalled progress, thinking, man, if I could only get down to 250 pounds. And the way that I saw myself at that weight in my head was a lot different than the way I actually looked when I was 250 pounds. I imagined like a nice, thick body shape, no double chin at all. For some reason, I pictured myself in some jean shorts, and I seen myself as like a 250 like bodybuilder looking guy with like a much lower body fat. And I remember I had the classic mindset that I don't want to be too skinny. I think that's something that a lot of people say whenever they start losing weight. And I've always been Big Mike, probably the smallest, shortest Big Mike ever. And whenever I would tell people that I was losing weight or I wanted to lose weight, that's something that I always thought of, always being that bigger guy. And I thought that I always had to be kind of big because I've always been big, so I didn't want to be too small, so I just always got to kind of be a little bit big. It's almost a thing that could be said like out of fear of failing, thinking that I couldn't do it. Even if I got down to 250 pounds, and I was still there right now, I would still be 100% better than being 350 pounds. So any weight that you lose is going to be beneficial to your health. So in the van, thinking about how much weight I lost, and this is when I had that moment that everyone needs to have. You could dream about something you want for months, for weeks, for days, for years. You could dream about having the physique of a god, the hair, the bod. You could always start a diet tomorrow, but how many tomorrows do you have? And it takes much more than just visualizing the end result. For a lot of people, it's a wake-up call. It's bad news. It's hitting rock bottom. At some point, it's gonna hit you like it hit me. And after a lifetime of tomorrows, dreams, after months of not making any progress, always wanting to lose weight, always being the fattest guy around. In this moment, I thought about everything. For once in my life, I thought, what would happen if I actually started trying? And like most people, I didn't know where to start. But I remember always seeing something about a 2,000 calorie diet. It's like on the back of every nutrition label, anything you look at, you could look at it and it'll say based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So I decided that I was gonna eat 2,000 calories a day. I wouldn't recommend this for everybody, especially if you're like very obese. You could eat probably way more calories than that. And for me, this was actually a starvation diet. I just didn't know it. I knew that drinking alcohol was a lot of calories. Instead of drinking every day, that I would only drink on the weekends. One of the first things I remember doing whenever I started this diet, going to Costco and getting a salad. That was the lowest calorie thing they had on their menu instead of the pizzas and the chicken bakes and the Frosties and all the good stuff. And salads are really good because you could have your protein, so like a chicken salad, and then with all the lettuce and all the volume, you have a lot of food that you could eat for a little amount of calories. I feel like this is a thing that everybody thinks whenever they start a diet is like, I just have to eat salads. I can only eat salads. And that's not true because there's plenty of things that you could eat that aren't salads that are still lower in calories and can still help you lose weight. So don't think you only have to eat salads. If you don't like salads, don't eat salads. I also started writing down everything that I ate. That way I could keep track of how many calories that I was eating every day. Since I was living in a van, I was kind of limited on what I could eat, so I couldn't really cook anything like chicken, and I had to base my diet around things that could be stored in a van. Things that I could pick up from the grocery store that were ready to eat, or even going to fast food places and getting stuff from there. Things like bagels, fruit, and canned soup, which are great because you get a lot of volume with a very low amount of calories when it comes to like a little canned soup. So even if you had like 2 or even 3, that might only be like 500 calories. I had a routine that I would do most mornings. Sometimes I would go to Starbucks and they had like a sausage egg sandwich that I would eat that was like 300 calories, so it wasn't too bad. I'd have my coffee, my sausage egg sandwich, but most of the time I would go to Vons, and that was a grocery store that was like 2 blocks down the road. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd walk there, and I'd get a sandwich, I'd get some yogurt, I'd get either a banana or an apple, and I would eat a lot of pop chips. And the serving size was like 19 or 20 chips for like 130 calories. I would get the big bag and I would count out the little chips, and I would eat that almost every morning. And most of the time, I would only eat things if it had the calories on it. It didn't say how much calories it had on it. I wouldn't even bother with it because I wanted to know exactly how many calories I was eating every day. Some of the sandwiches wouldn't have the calories on them. I would go on Google and I would try to look for like the sandwich. I'd be like, yo, Vons sandwich, this kind of bread, this kind of meat, and just hoping that like somebody or something had the calories to that sandwich on there. Sometimes it wouldn't have it on there, so I would try to overestimate it. I would only drink on the weekends, but nobody's perfect. And the days that I would drink during the week, if I decided to, I would add that to my daily calories. Sometimes I would go over the 2,000 mark, but a lot of times I was like very strict with it, and I would still stay under that 2,000 mark, which is really bad because like if I'm drinking like 660 calories from beer, that only leaves like 1,500 for food. So I was hungry a lot of nights, and that's one thing you don't want to do when you're dieting. Just because you're on a diet doesn't mean that you have to be hungry. If anything, you want to feel the least amount of hunger that you can and still lose weight. And I was always big on Budweiser. I talked so much crap about Bud Light, and Budweiser was the only thing that was good. Nothing else was good. And the thing about Budweisers is they have a lot more calories than a Bud Light. I started drinking more Bud Light Platinums, which have more alcohol, but they have less calories, and they're still disgusting. Back then, I really liked disgusting beer because Budweiser is like the most disgusting thing I could ever think of right now. And I would never ever drink Budweiser ever again in my life. Even Bud Light Platinum is so nasty, man. Ugh. At the time, I liked really nasty beer, so switching to Bud Light Platinum wasn't a big deal, and it was stronger, so it was like nothing, I guess. Like, eventually, I came to my senses, and I started drinking something good, which I know a lot of people would disagree with. I would still have the Platinum sometimes, and then I would have the Bud Light sometimes. Have less calories in the Platinums, but they're not as strong as the Platinums, so, you know, it's all about trade-offs. I wouldn't exactly have cheat meals, but I would have cheat days. So the days that I would drink, I would go all out. That's the day that I would get my burritos or any kind of crazy food that I wanted, and I just wasn't sticking to the diet. I wasn't writing stuff down, and I honestly think that that is a big mistake. Now, at the time, I was able to get away with it and still lose weight because I was on a starvation diet. I didn't know that I was, but I was on a starvation diet. So even though I had those crazy, you know, couple days, 1 or 2 days where I just didn't give a crap and I'm eating all kind of crazy food and just drinking alcohol like it's water, I was still able to lose weight. But do not do that. If you want to have a cheat, that's fine. Just don't go too all out because you can ruin your progress if you do that. If you're doing good all week and then you have a couple of days where you just don't give a crap and you just go insane, it could really keep you in that like maintenance spot. Or if you really go insane on those days, you could even gain weight. So don't do cheat days. If anything, do a cheat meal or save your alcohol for one day. Still have fun, but just try to do the least amount of damage that you can. Because on these days for me, I wasn't worried about the damage. I was just worried about doing some damage. So when it came to eating at work, sometimes I would go to the grocery store and I would get a sandwich. Other times I would get my canned soup and I would just eat it straight out of the can. And I actually liked that. That's something that I was doing for a long time. And sometimes my coworkers were like, you know, you could warm that up. You could put it in a bowl and like warm it up. And I would do that sometimes, but I actually liked eating cold soup, and it's something that I've done since I was young. I'll just like open a can of raviolis or open a can of soup and just eat it out of the can and eat it like that. And it tastes good. And the Goodwill that I worked at didn't have any like real food there, but they had snacks by the register like sodas and chips. Before I actually started trying, I would go for the Doritos and other kind of chips, but the lowest calorie one that was on there was popcorn. It's in that black bag. It's like Smart Choice or Smart Food. A bag of that was like 330 calories. Still quite a bit of calories for like a snack, but it was better than the 500 and whatever calories that all the other bags of chips had. Still to this day, I don't eat that popcorn anymore, but I eat popcorn every single day of my life, and I've done that for probably like 4 years now. So I love my popcorn, but if you're gonna get any kind, I would recommend Smart Pop popcorn or any lower calorie popcorn. Just don't get the ones that are like basically chips and have lots of calories in them, because you're gonna get way more for less, especially if you go with the Smart Pop. Dakota's work was about a mile away from my work. Sometimes I would work first and I'd get dropped off at my job, and then after work, I would walk the mile down to his job. Or sometimes he would work first and he would drive to his work, and then I'd walk from his work to my work. And sometimes I would walk there and I would walk back. So I was starting to get my activity levels up a bit, and sometimes if Dakota was working, I'd just walk around and explore the city. This is when Pokemon Go first came out. I was all about it, just like the whole world was, and I was getting even more walking in by going around and catching Pokemon. Sometimes at my lunch, on lunch breaks, or sometimes just being in the van, we just go out and catch some Pokemon or go hit the gym. The Pokemon gym. So now I'm counting calories, I'm playing Pokemon Go around the city, I'm walking from work to work, and for the first time I was actually trying, and I was actually sticking to it. After months of staying still, staying in the same place and not losing weight, I started losing weight very fast. And when I started doing all of this, I started losing 10 pounds a month. My pants started getting loose, I had to start buying new clothes. The biggest pant size I ever remember being was 48-inch waist. I got down to like a 42-inch waist, but then when I started getting into the 30s, that was crazy to me. 38-inch waist? Are you kidding me? Mikey Pennington, the boy with the 38-inch waist? Oh my God. So I was living in LA and everybody out there is like all fancy. I started buying like button-up shirts and like flannels. My work started to notice, started calling me slim, and just giving me more of those compliments that gave me the drive to just keep going. The more I lost, the more compliments I got, the more I got inspired, the more I got motivated to keep going. One coworker that said I was wasting away. I know this is a popular one that people don't really like people think that like wasting away, like you're wasting away, but for me, I don't know, I still took it as a compliment, you know, like that didn't offend me. That just like, you know, I'm wasting my weight away, I'm wasting away. It sounds bad, but I still took that as a compliment. So there were a couple things that I always thought were really cool. One was being in a band and being like a rock star and playing music. That was always so cool to me. But another one was skateboarding. I always thought that skateboarding was so cool, just like that guy. He's skateboarding, he's got the long hair, you know, it's flowing in the wind. It was always a dream of mine. I tried when I was younger, but I was never able to. I got the confidence to get a skateboard and actually try to learn how to skate. Now, I fell down a lot. It was a challenge. It wasn't easy for me to like balance, and there's like videos of me trying to learn how to skate on my YouTube. And it got to the point where I was just skating around Los Angeles, able to confidently do that on the streets of LA, go down the gutters sometimes. Still don't go down hills. I would still even never to this day go down a hill because I'm not trying to fall down and break something. And I remember when I hit a really big milestone for me. We were at Vons and I hadn't weighed myself in a while. I went to the back of the store and they had one of those machines where you sit down, you could take your blood pressure and you could see your weight. I went on there, pressed the buttons, got it started, and I weighed 260 pounds. And that was a crazy moment to me because I had lost over 100 pounds at that moment. Walked back to the little food court we were sitting in, and I told Dakota that I had officially lost 100 pounds. So when you start trying to lose weight and you come up with a plan and you only stick to it for like a week or two, it takes much longer than that. You have to stick to it. You have to think of a plan and you got to be true to it if you want to reach your goals. And for me, it was counting calories and learning about food and learning how many calories that were in the foods that I was eating and how fast they could add up. Even in smaller servings, higher calorie foods could be stalling your progress. And just by simply starting to look on the back of things, look at nutrition labels, and seeing how many calories are in the foods that you're eating, you could then make a choice and ask yourself, is it really worth that amount of calories when you could have something else that's lower in calories but still tastes good and still is amazing? If you're only eating 2,000 calories a day and a bag of Doritos is 550 calories, do you really think the best option is that bag of Doritos? Like, is that bag of Doritos so good that it's worth the 500 calories towards your 2,000 calorie goal? For me, I don't think so. Because instead of those Doritos, you could have like a big bowl of strawberries or some fruit that is going to taste good and it's going to be a lot less calories and a lot less filling. A lot more filling, I mean. When it comes to the counting, it's not something that you have to do for your whole entire life, but it is something that would benefit you in losing weight if you did it for at least a while. Just be aware of the amount of calories that you're consuming and try to do less. Hopefully this video might have inspired you to do like I did and actually start trying. And you don't have to be perfect, but the sooner you start trying your best, the sooner you will reach your goals. So if you like this video and you're gonna start trying right now, go ahead and hit that like button. You could drop a comment if you want to, and if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. And until next time, y'all have a nice night, and I am blasting off.